This week we try to restore this Honda CB200T air box by using a conventional air filter. Can it be done? I don't know, maybe. Let's give it a shot. Now you might be asking yourself, why are you going to the trouble of restoring these Honda CB200 air boxes? The reason for that is because these are actually not commonly available out there. Unlike the CB550s or CB500s, those air boxes are out there available for purchase and they're fairly inexpensive. These are actually not really available. My guess is because they come with this rubber boot right here that, you know, it's really hard to reproduce, I think. And then this metal is actually a thicker metal. And then these elements are actually kind of glued in here. So I'm not sure if that's why they're not being made. Not sure if this was meant to be replaced, only the filter element was meant to be replaced, but I don't know if they're just not being made. So I figured, why not make a video where we try to replace just the filter element and try to keep everything as original as possible. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's start by taking apart this air box and see what's in there. You know, see if we can maybe take this apart, take the filter element apart, and see if we can put it back together using this conventional round style air filter. Now the idea behind this is that we'll cut off this top section, the bottom section as well, and then we'll only use the filter element to be able to create our own element for our motorcycle filter here. The material is way different. That material from this newer air filter is a lot thinner and more modern looking. This one actually looks like a wool type of material, which is very dense. It looks like it would filter a lot of media or a lot of dirt that would pass through it or not pass through it, right? Because that's the whole point of an air filter. But yeah, it's a little different, but I think it should work just fine. So let's start by taking this filter apart and see what's inside of there. All right, so I have a couple of tools here that I'm going to use. The first one being just a regular razor blade. As you can see, this section here of the air filter, this is the actual media or the cardboard, I guess you can say. This cardboard here is what filters the air going into this filter boot here. As you can see, there is glue that is holding this top portion in place. Now there's a random screw in the middle here that had some washers and a nut and a rubber piece there. I'm not sure why that is there, but I guess today we're going to find out why that is there. My guess is that screw was meant to hold this top cover in place whenever they went to glue this top cover. I could be wrong, but it really doesn't hold any value really for it to be there, because the side cover kind of covers this area, and the side cover doesn't attach to this bolt here. So let's just give it a shot and let's start kind of going through this material here. Now it looks like very hard material. It's very tough. I thought it was going to be maybe more like a glue or like a silicone, but this is actually, wow, that's actually very, very hard glue. Now we want to be careful because we don't want to damage the metal box here. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is we need to take it apart. Let me see if I can remove the boot first so that we don't know that's stuck on there too. Okay. So I'm going to see if there's a way that I can remove this. So this part is glued here, and this part is simply glued to the filter material. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the filter material and see if we can have better access to see what's going on inside. And hopefully we can pry this cover off a little easier. Maybe we can use the side that's cut open. Again, we're not using this media because obviously it's not good anymore. So we're not too worried about keeping this. Go. Cut all around here. Now kids, you want to be careful when you're using knives. Okay, so we've cut. What I am noticing is that this pleated element does go quite a bit in there. I hope y'all can see that. But this material here goes really deep in there. Like way in there. So to cut it, you kind of have to, really get the knife in there. Okay, so I'm gonna just start cutting the bottom. See if I can get some of that material out. Okay, there's one piece. I'm actually really skeptical to see, or really curious to see what's in there. Okay. I see that it has some sort of mesh in there. Now, it might be that we're not even going to be able to restore these. It could be that maybe we're going to find out that they're just not worth restoring. But who cares? We'll give it a shot. As you can see, this is the old material. And I mean, this old material is pretty worn. There's some yellowing going on and stuff, so this probably wasn't, it's my guess that it was probably clogged. I do see some mesh in here. We don't want to cut that. We might have to reuse that, so we just want to be careful with that. There we go. One of the main reasons why I'm doing this, because somebody posted on a on a Facebook group, they were looking for these filters. And I don't know, maybe this helps somebody out there. Maybe they can kind of work on their own and make it a project, and maybe they can restore their own filter. That'd be kind of cool, just to give somebody some ideas on how to do this. Okay, so I'm seeing now that that mesh is kind of glued on there as well. So it could be that that mesh, that metal mesh is holding the top metal part on. Now again, I tried cleaning these. Tried washing them, and I mean, I think it might have worked because I think the filter itself had a little bit of life left in it, but I wasn't too sure, if I'm being really honest. The last thing we want is for our motorcycle to be running rich because we don't have enough filtration going on, or enough air going into our air box, I should say. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. So we have a cover here at the top. We have a screw that goes into the bottom section, and we see that this mesh in here, this mesh portion in here, is also glued to the top here. So I'm gonna try to pry it apart. That's kind of hard on me. Okay, that's really, wow. I'm not sure what type of glue they used, but that's some glue. Okay, so what we need to figure out is how we can separate these two sections, this top section from this bottom section, because we need to clean all of this leftover filter material. We need to clean all of that so that we can come back and add new filter media in that same spot, glue it back how this one was, and then put this one back on top and see how that works. So I think what I'm going to do, now I don't want to damage this mesh here because it looks pretty cool in there, like it should go there and stay there, but I think the filter mesh is just keeping, you know, the filter media in case it becomes wet or something from going into the motor. But in our case, that might not be what we want. Now, I'm wondering if I can use some sort of solvent to get rid of this glue. This is a really strong glue that this thing has. I think we should probably get wow, that is on there. I tried lifting this and I actually bent it a little bit. We don't want to do that. but I think we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to remove that filter mesh. I don't think there's any way around not removing this filter mesh, because the filter mesh itself is glued to the bottom, so yeah, I think we're gonna have to remove that. Okay, well, unfortunately we're gonna have to remove the mesh. And the reason for that is because the mesh insert here is what's holding this two together very tightly. Now we could try to remove it without removing the mesh, but I think that's close to impossible. So I'm just gonna make a hole in the mesh with my screwdriver. And then I'm gonna start cutting the mesh. Hopefully y'all see what I'm doing. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm just cutting the mesh along the middle, and hopefully this will allow us to. Now I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but hey, if it works, then maybe it is how you should do it. So I'm cutting this, and the reason I'm not too concerned about cutting this mesh is because the air filter that we're using actually comes with a mesh in here, so we might be able to use that. Or we can just install our own mesh in there, maybe come up with one. But okay, so we're removing the mesh. Okay, now as you can see, now we're able to kind of pry it. There we go. All right, nice. Okay, so we were able to cut that. As you can see, now it's coming apart. And there goes the mesh. Notice how the mesh was kind of stuck in there. You can see the perforations there on the glue. But yeah, here we go. Wow, that looks like complete carnage, but it's okay. I think we can clean this up and get it looking pretty decent. All right, so here we have it. We have our filter boot here, which we don't want to damage because we need to reuse this. And then we have the top layer here. I'll put this one off to the side. So this is the top layer here. Hopefully y'all can see that. So this is the top layer here. And Now we just have a whole bunch of glue, and yeah, so I don't know how easy this glue is going to be to remove. It seems like it's going to be pretty difficult to remove. Now, I could soak this in a chemical bath of some sort and see if that glue kind of gets a little bit more malleable so that we can remove it. But in order to do that, I need to figure out how to remove this boot, because I don't want that chemical to hurt this boot, which we need. So I'm gonna see if I can figure this out. Okay, so notice here, the boot has a squared off edge here all the way around, and that is actually glued. So we kind of just have to work it to where maybe we put a blade in here carefully and just undo that glue all the way around without puncturing the actual rubber. Here we go. Okay, so now we can kind of push from in here, being very careful not to damage our metal. Or damage our boot, of course. As you can see, there's some glue. We just need to kind of rip that. And then just push the boot out. So there we go. So the flat side goes to the bottom, and that's how we're gonna figure out where things go. Now you gotta be very careful with this stuff, because obviously it's very, very, very sharp. As you can see, I just cut myself, but that's okay. So there is a little crease here at the end. There's a little crease there where that element can go kind of tucked in, and then also here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this filter element. Now, again, we need to cut this open and figure out how we're going to do that. All right, so like I mentioned before, we might be able to remove this glue, but I think we need to put this into some sort of bath of some sort, maybe like a chemical bath, and try to loosen this glue up. I'm not sure what I could use. I'm thinking of maybe putting it into my ultrasonic cleaner, but I really don't know. Maybe I can put some aircraft adhesive remover on it and see if that works. Maybe just soak it in some sort of lubricant, I don't know. But as you can see, we have the top piece, and then we also have the bottom piece. Now this bottom piece, as you can see, it also has a whole bunch of glue here. I could try to just chip it away and see if I can remove all of that glue, but as you can see, it's extremely hard. So I think the next step to do is to soak these. Now I am thinking, to be honest, of using my ultrasonic cleaner to see if maybe that'll kind of loosen that up a bit. I don't think it will, to be honest. I think we're just going to have to soak this in some sort of, I don't know, to be honest. But let me go ahead and do that. I am gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and soak these in whatever chemical I find that might loosen adhesive. And I'll check back with you guys probably tomorrow. So I'll probably leave them soaking overnight, and then tomorrow I'll come back and I'll see if I can remove all of that glue and let you all know what worked better. So let's give that a shot, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. All right, so a couple of days have passed and I've been able to put this partially together. Now, I've been able to finish the top portion, but I haven't finished the bottom portion. But as you can see, I've gone ahead and cleaned out all the adhesive that it had before. I removed all the filter element, the old filter element. And now I'm just getting ready to put this together. Now, I didn't film I filmed myself putting everything or cleaning everything, but I didn't film myself actually talking about the process and how I was going about doing it. And the reason for that is because, well, this is my first time doing it, so I wasn't too sure what I was doing, if I'm being really honest. So I kind of went along with it. I filmed the whole process. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to show you that footage, but then I'll probably talk about it as we go. Once I finish talking about that, then we'll come back here and we'll try to marry these two together so that we can get our final filter box and be ready to go. I honestly did like the way this came out. I really thought this was gonna be a lot harder process to get this to work, but honestly, as of now, it's pretty straightforward. So let's go to that footage and we'll come back and we'll put this together. All right, so here I'm taking the air filter apart. This is a conventional air filter, round air filter. I purchased this at my local auto parts store, and this filter measures about 2 3/4 inch in height. So here I'm just cutting the rubber portion of it, and I'm trying to see if I'm able to remove the actual cardboard element without damaging it. So as you can see here, there's a small little clip. I accidentally tore a part of the filter out. There's a metal clip that was holding it together in that area, and I was trying to pull that clip out, but it actually tore off. So, but that's okay. I can always come back and cut that portion, make it straighter. Since we're really trying to use that whole filter for 2 filter boxes, so we really don't need to use the whole thing. So in other words, I can make 2 from this 1 filter. So here I'm just cutting the inner portion of, there's a small mesh that's inside of the air filter. That small mesh is basically meant to keep the filter element from going into the intake or into your engine in case, you know, it comes apart for whatever reason. But that mesh, I needed to kind of cut it so that I could, you know, have access to it. Now, as you can see here, I'm trying to see if I'm able to bend it. So I was having kind of an idea of maybe bending the filter so that I can just use it as is and just putting it in between the 2 pieces of metal. But as you can see, as I was trying to bend it, I would have to bend it way too close. And so what that meant was that the filter itself, I'm not too sure if you can see here, but the element, the paper was actually starting to distort. It was starting to push out. So here I'm realizing that I'm not able to do that, and I'm gonna have to take off the, or take out the element. All right, so this is the bottom portion of the filter. Here I'm trying out to see if the filter would kind of work if I leave the rubber portion on there. But after measuring, after seeing how that would work, I was able to figure out that that wasn't going to actually work. So this is where I started to cut the air filter element by using a blade, and I was just cutting the bottom portion to see if I could get the rubber out from the filter, and it was actually working. As once I cut the first portion, I was able to figure out that I could just basically pull it apart. This is the mesh that I took out from the outer portion of it. There's an inner and outer mesh, so I was able to take out the outer mesh as well. Here I'm trying to pry up all the glue that was left on the bottom base, but as you can see, I was having a hard time doing that. I'm really trying to get in there and trying to lift the glue up, but you know, I was having a really hard time, especially after I soaked it overnight with I used gasoline. I soaked it in gasoline. I soaked it in inside of my ultrasonic cleaner as well by heating up the ultrasonic cleaner with some water and putting some degreaser in there to kind of clean that out, but it didn't work. So here I am trying to just find a way to remove the adhesive. So I found this small chisel and I'm trying to just remove all the filter element. It was difficult to do. I'm not going to lie, this process took a little while. It didn't take so long. I would say maybe in taking out the glue from this bottom portion, I took about 30 to 45 minutes worth of my time to kind of clean all that area. But the second portion of the air box was actually faster because then I knew how to do it. So as you can see here, I'm just trying to pry up all the glue. It was getting to be kind of tough to do. So here in a bit, I kind of move over to using another method. As I was doing this process, there's a piece of metal that's standing straight up, which I'm holding with my left hand. That piece of metal is just simply glued to the bottom portion of that piece of, or that cover, I guess you can say, where the filter element goes that I'm trying to clean out. It's simply held in place with glue. Here, it actually just came out. That is where the filter boot goes. So, you know, I went ahead and cleaned it afterwards, but as you can see, there's plenty of glue on it. And I mean, the filter box itself, it was covered with a lot of glue. I mean, I'm going to probably do the same thing if I put it back together at this point. Yeah, so they weren't, they put a lot of glue in there. So it needs it to be able to hold all that media in place and prevent any leaks. But here I'm still trying to clean and I'm still trying to get everything off, and it's quite a task, to be honest. So after struggling for a while with this glue, I found myself a drill and I found myself a high-speed carbide cutting tool. This is a simple bit that goes in the front of a tool like a Dremel or like a drill, and it basically has like a cutting surface, a round cutting surface in the front. And what I found was that it was actually working very good to remove the glue. It did take me a while to kind of get into all the whole area of the part, but it was working pretty good. I did have to clean it off after a while, but as you can see here, it's kind of cutting into the material. It won't cut into the metal. It does, once it reaches the metal, it does scratch it up a little bit, which is okay because I was going to use this to adhere glue to it. So it's kind of edging the metal a little bit, and then that way we can have a good surface to have the glue kind of adhere to. But as you can see here, that process took me a while, and I was able to remove most of the glue. After removing most of the glue, this is what I was left with. As you can see, it's nice and clean. The top portion is nice and clean, and I am able to move over to the next step. But before I did that, I wanted to make sure that I cleaned my work area. So I got myself my vacuum so that I can kind of make sure that none of the fines are going to end up in my filter element, because that's really what we're trying to avoid. So here I am cleaning the table, getting it all prepped and getting it ready. So here I'm working on the filter. I'm working on removing the filter element. As you can see, I'm cutting the bottom and then I'm gently pulling the rubber out or apart. You kind of have to use a long blade to get in there and cut that. That makes it easier, but the rest of the way you can simply peel off the rubber end of that filter. As you can see here, I'm simply peeling that off, and it was pretty easy to do. Now keep in mind, the original air filter height is about 2 inches. So this filter height is about 2 3/4 inches tall. And I bought it that way so that way I can cut some material off and end up with those 2 inches that I needed for the original height. You can see here, the filter does come with an internal mesh. That one was a little hard to remove, so I kind of left it alone. I didn't take that off. But yeah, okay, so here I have my filter media already taken out of the air filter that I purchased. As you can see here, I'm trying to figure out how to put it back into the holder that holds the filter media. Now this holder is the portion that goes in the front, and it has 2 little slots. As you can see here, I'm adjusting those slots and I'm putting the filter media into those slots. And then I'll basically just crimp them in place, and that'll hold the air filter media, or the material, I guess you can say. Again, it's just basically, you just have to get it in place into that metal portion. It just goes clipped in. So all you have to do is just slide the material into place, and then get some pliers, and then simply just pry the metal down so it can hold the filter media in place. You can see that I'm doing that here. I did have to cut a few pieces just to make it fit in there, but once I was able to get it in there, it was, I was able to crimp it in place and it held just fine. Here I'm bringing the filter media into place. As you can see, that's looking pretty good to me. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to place it. But as you can see, that is basically like the original. It looks a little bit different, but it's basically the same. Here it's not glued, as you can see, but it's very manageable. You're able to move it around, and you don't really have any issues. Now I knew I needed to put a metal portion in the middle, but the metal portion that I needed to place in the middle, I knew I was going to have to do that afterwards because I wasn't going to be able to put everything together. Here I'm applying the adhesive to the bottom portion, or this is actually the top portion, but we're working backwards. So we want to have the top portion done first, let that dry, and then we can set it to the bottom portion. Here I'm just spreading the glue so that I can put the element, the filter media, into that area there. And yeah, the more the better here, because we want to make sure that the whole filter or the cardboard here kind of has a place to adhere to. So I'm spreading it pretty much about an inch from the edge. That way I can put my filter media. Cleaning my hands a bit. Here I am kind of holding the filter media where it kind of needs to go, and I'm simply just placing the material where it needs to go, just being careful to not move the glue too much so that it can stick to the material. And that's it. Pretty straightforward. The glue held it in place pretty well. And as you can see, it held in place really nice. Here I'm just touching up some parts of the glue that kind of moved when I kind of moved the material to the side a little bit, but I just got an X-Acto knife and then I kind of just glued those portions into place. But yeah, I'm super happy with this here. And then once I did that, then I moved over to putting the mesh in the middle. Just making some little adjustments here with the glue, just making sure that the glue is sticking to the filter element. Here I am putting the mesh into the inside portion of the filter. As you can see, I'm trying to get it to the right shape. I don't want to damage or move the filter media, so I'm being very careful in the way that I place it in there. And this mesh is simply meant to kind of keep, if in case the filter were to ever come apart, the mesh would keep any material from going into the engine or potentially clog the engine or anything like that. So the mesh just kind of keeps everything in place. Here I'm trying it out, but I realized that the boot might get in the way, so I had to make some adjustments and cut the material. Here I'm applying some glue to the inside portion where I know the mesh is gonna sit. Apply the glue there, and then I put the mesh where it needed to go. And that's it. It was pretty straightforward. It didn't take that long. Here I'm applying a little bit more glue just to hold the mesh into place. But it was pretty straightforward and honestly not that difficult to do at all. So now that you saw how I was able to put this filter box together, now it's time to finally get this done and glue it to our base. And all I'm gonna do is basically just put the top portion into this area where that bolt is in the middle. Now there is a sleeve here, so you have to be careful. This sleeve here is meant so that the metal doesn't crush down further than it's supposed to. So it's basically just a holder to keep the pressure from, basically crushing down your filter element. Now, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put it where I want to have it or where it needs to go. Then I'm gonna mark it with a black marker. Just kind of make some marks around. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that my adhesive flows out to only that area. I don't want to apply more adhesive in other areas that I don't need to. So here we go. So as you can see, I have an outline. I can kind of draw that out a little better. And I might cover those marks with adhesive. So I'm just going to trace around. So as you can see, this is where I want my adhesive to go. I don't want it to go further than that. I don't want it to be in the areas that I don't need adhesive. And now all I have to do is kind of measure and kind of figure out to what area I need to run the adhesive. So if I measure this, it's about 1 inch inward all around. So I'm just going to mark more or less 1 inch going inward here. Okay, and there you go. That is where I need to put my adhesive so that then the filter will sit perfectly in that adhesive and I'm able to put my top of the filter. Now I have this piece of wood here and I'm gonna use this piece of wood because the air boot or I guess you can call this the air filter boot is kind of offset. So the flat part here is the one that goes towards the bottom. But as you can see, it's a little bit offset. So what happens is if you put it flat on the table, it'll kind of push the filter up. So I put this piece of wood here, so when I put it down, it lays flat. All right, so I basically think we're ready. All we have to do is, okay, so I just grabbed the 10mm wrench there. That's the one we're gonna use for the bolt. So I wanna have that ready. I have 2 washers here. So I have those ready. And then we're gonna start putting our adhesive. Now we do want to put quite a bit of adhesive, and the reason for that is because we want that adhesive to kind of encapsulate the filter media and kind of glue everything together. So we do have to go kind of thick on this adhesive so that it works properly for what we're trying to do. Don't try to use just the gun to put the adhesive. I feel that once you put it in there, then you can kind of go back with your finger, kind of dab it in there to get it where it needs to go. So here we go. We're just shooting to get it within those lines that we drew. Again, you want to put quite a bit of adhesive. You can always remove some if you put too much. There we go. I think that looks good. We want to be as neat as possible with this. Here we go, that's how that looks. And all I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kind of dab it and get it into the shape of what we were trying to accomplish. So here we go. Now if I see that this layer that we're setting down is too thin for the gap that we're trying to fill, then I can always go back. But honestly, I think this is going to do just fine. So in the video you saw me taking out all the glue that was originally on here. That was by far the most difficult part of doing this, but I really was using, my drill and things that maybe you have, at home, and some tools that you might have at home as well, or you can get pretty inexpensive with, not having to waste a lot of money. In retrospect, I would have probably used a Dremel of some sort with a better maybe tip to kind of make that job a lot easier. Removing the adhesive, if you have a better way, I tried dipping it in adhesive remover, I tried dipping it in gas, and it just didn't work out that great. So, okay, I think that looks pretty good. I am gonna spread it a little bit more inwards because I feel like that filter media is it's like an inch going inward. So I want to make sure that it has a place to sit properly. And don't worry, this is just so that it could sit on there. All the filtering happens in the middle, so you don't have to worry. There's plenty of space there for the air to pass through. I'm gonna add a little bit more here at the end, just a little bit. I wanna get that end a little bit higher. That's the end where the metal kind of meets there. So I'll make sure that that is covered properly. Here we go. Okay. Okay. I think that's going to work just fine. Kind of even that out a little bit. All right. So now that we have that done, now it's the moment of truth. Now we can actually go to putting our filter on top, setting it down, and getting it glued together. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so here we go. We're going to set our filter in place. Cross our fingers, make sure everything goes well. I think I'm gonna spread the glue a little bit more inward, just to to make sure that we cover all that filter media and make sure it sticks, because there's really no coming back. We could kind of maybe get some adhesive in between there, but why go through that trouble if we don't need to? Just make sure we cover all the filter media, make sure it all sits properly. Now, I think I'm gonna add a little bit more adhesive because there are some flat spots that are not too high. So I wanna make sure that they are high enough so that when I set down the filter, it kind of oozes in between the filter media, which is what I want to make sure I get a good seal. I know this might seem like a lot of adhesive, but I'd rather it's, you know, kind of glue properly than not have enough glue and then we have a leak through there. And then we get, you know, dirt and stuff into the engine. Okay, all right, I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so here we go. I have the filter media here, or the air box that we put together. As you can see, we have some glue in there. Don't, you know, disregard that. I was trying to kind of clean it up afterwards and I realized that I just made it look a lot uglier. But you know, I also covered a lot of the gaps. If I saw a gap here and there, I went ahead and covered it. But other than that, this actually glued very well. So I'm pretty happy about that. All right, so we just gotta check the correct orientation. Make sure that your boot is in the correct orientation before you put it. I was putting it the other way with the flat side going up, but it's not like that. This flat side here should be going downwards like that. I tried it on the bike and that's how it's supposed to go. So here we go. We're going to make sure that the spacer is in here. All right, and then we're just going to go and set down our filter media by using the bolt as a guide. Here we go. Perfect. Just gonna give it a quick look around. That looks awesome. Okay. So before that moves around, I'm going to install my washers. I'm going to install this nut that came. There is a rubber grommet that is, I guess it's meant so that this seals watertight after it gets installed on the bike. But in this case, wow, that actually looks really cool. I think I see a small gap right here, but I can easily fill that with a little bit of glue. There was a little gap in this corner, but I wasn't too sure if it was actually a gap or if it was just the way that the metal looked sitting there. But regardless, I just went ahead and covered that. And then I'll go back and clean up this area just to kind of make it look a little nicer. There we go. Not sure if you can see this, but hopefully you can see that. I had to kind of lower the light, but that looks pretty cool. As you can see, all the silicone kind of went into the filter element there, and you know, it's pretty much glued on there. Now this nut here is what's holding, you know, pressing down, I guess you can say, on the media, filter media, but I mean, it's pressing down onto the glue, so once that dries, then it should be pretty good. But look at that. I think that looks pretty good. If you see any of these filter elements or the paper elements kind of not glued properly, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive on the outside and that should fix it. In this case, this corner here looks like it was a little bit too long and kind of, you know, it kind of separated a little bit, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of adhesive in that corner just to kind of glue things down and make sure that that is sealed. And we're good. Perfect. Okay, I just added a little bit of silicone there in the corner just to make sure everything was kind of glued properly. But as you can see, I'm pretty happy with that. So there you have it. You know, these filter boxes, you might be able to find these online for sale somewhere. But if for whatever reason you can't get a hold of one, or you actually want to make this into a project that you want to work on, you can very well do so. I mean, this is a project that you can take on, and it's really not that difficult to do. And if you get it right, and then you get it right the second time, and then the third time, and then you become an expert at doing this, then you can make your own filter boxes, and that's a skill that you will have forever, which honestly, it's not that difficult. And you know, if you really wanted to, some of you out there might be thinking, well, maybe I can make this out of a K&N air filter and maybe make it reusable. That might also be a thing that you might want to try out. If you have like $80 to spend on a reusable air filter like this one that you can cut up, or that size that you can cut up and try it on a K&N air filter, and then that way you can just wash it and reuse it and re-oil it, you might be able to do that. In my case, you know, I figured let's give it a shot with inexpensive filter material here, which we used, and it seems to work fine. So the next part that we're going to do is we're gonna install it on the bike, we're gonna test it out, see how it works, and hopefully we don't have any issues with our bike running or anything like that. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please, if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, please leave those comments down below. I'd really appreciate that. Let me know what you think. Maybe this is not something that's gonna work. I wanna know about it too. So leave that in the comments below. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.